Good morning, Danusha.
Good morning, sir.
How are you keeping on?
I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. I saw some of the answers coming up. I will go to those things. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I did it paper. That's why I couldn't put it on Excel sheet or anything to send it. That's why I'm sending pictures.
no problem.
I'll send the rest after the class today.
Sure, no
The
problem. I'll
new
send it and I will go through that one and then let's go through it and see how it is working for us. Okay. So we will start off from where we stopped last time. We were on the modern environment and we were talking about the quality cost because you remember we spoke about total quality management. Quality has become such an important thing today, and that is why we have things like the balance scorecard and all that. Basically, the quality of whatever we do, whether it's a good or a service, need to be of that quality which the customer needs. So that's why I said earlier the setup of what we call standard quality, standard costing is going out of our way because we have to continuously keep on improving the quality, and that means we have to spend some money on quality cost. So we discussed this one last time. Basically, there are four types of quality related costs. One, what we call prevention cost. If we can spend some money and get right suppliers to supply the raw material, right people recruited, right machinery, you probably can, you spend some money on that part of the quality, but probably can save many other quality costs like returns coming up, like reputation damage, that is by having right suppliers, right employees, all that kind of a thing. So that's what we call prevention cost. Basically, it's a kind of a cost what we call conformance. We incur that cost to conform to the cost to the quality requirement. The other cost of the conformance cost is what we call appraisal cost. It is something what we incur during the process of the manufacture or whatever. So in other words, we don't wait till the product comes finally from the product line to see, oh my gosh, it's so bad. We have to again send it for recycling or do whatever. We continue to monitor the quality from the time that the raw material enters into the machine to the time that the raw materials comes out of the machine as a finished product, or if it's some service or a construction what we are doing, from the day we start the construction we will check quality, but that needs again another cost. Supervision, quality circles, etc. to maintain that one. So that is also a something to do with the conformance. If we spend money on prevention and appraisal, we almost conform to the quality requirements of the customer or the market. If we spend little on those areas, we might end up with a product at the end of the product cycle, which is not so of good quality. So again, that means we have to recycle the product, we have to redo the product, or we have to scrap the product. Now that can be a very, very costly affair, and that's what we call internal failure cost. Now that arises because we have not confirmed to the quality, and therefore it is considered a non-conformance quality cost. Because we did not confirm, we had to spend that kind of a money. Then the third worst scenario is you have done a product without checking the product, you have sent it to the market and the market boomerangs on you and says you have sold a bad quality product, wrong quality product. It can have a massive impact. It will come up on today in the Facebook, it will come up on paper, media, and even the other people will come to know that the quality is bad. You remember a couple of years back, Toyota introduced a particular vehicle model, but it was completely not of quality. it went into the market and they had to pull out. So when you pull out, you have to get the product reshipped, all that kind of a thing. And that kind of a external failure cost can be very, very huge. And why we have to do that? When we don't spend enough on prevention, when we don't spend enough on appraisal, when we don't spend enough on internal failure, at least to check it at the last stage, we send a wrong product to the market, and that product can create havoc. Recently we saw Volkswagen. They cheated the public by saying their emission is something at a certain level, but when the product went into the market, it was a different story, and they were fined, they were reprimanded, all sorts of things happened. Still the people don't want to buy a Volkswagen car after hearing that kind of a thing. So that is non-conformance. So you can basically, the 4 types of costs what we incur to maintain quality: prevention and appraisal, we call it conformance cost; internal failure and external failure, we call it non-conformance cost. So this is basically we have to look at, but we have to strike a balance. Now, I remember I went to Lanka some time back when Zinu was there. One day when we went, we saw suddenly they have reduced the staff in the wards very heavily. The quality came down. One nurse for 16 rooms or something like that, she had to run here and there. The bells were ringing, all that kind of a thing. So when I checked with the CEO, what he told me was they were trying to reduce the cost what we were spending on prevention. The way to prevent was to have more nurses and to prevent any complaints coming up. But by reducing that cost, they were getting into a bit of a problem because the internal failure costs were much, much more higher. People were complaining, grumbling, and all sorts of things. And finally, I think they had to do something again back. So you have to balance it. If you spend a lot of money on prevention and appraisal, your cost of the product can be so heavy, finally you have a good quality product, but you can't market. But on the other hand, if you don't spend enough money on prevention and appraisal, you might be spending money on internal failure cost and external failure cost. So you have to strike a balance. That is what we will be getting in P3, risk management. Even in P2, there are a little bit of risk management. It's all about managing your quality in such a way without incurring excessive on prevention and appraisal, but also without incurring less on prevention and appraisal, and also managing your internal failure and external failure also well. So basically there are 4 types. One of the examiner's common questions is to put up a certain kind of a cost and ask whether it is prevention or whether it is appraisal, whether it is internal failure or external failure. The difficult ones are to distinguish between prevention and appraisal. Prevention, we have to look at something which is at the very beginning, like the product design. If you design the product well, you might not have problems in the latter stages of producing. So development of quality control equipment, that kind of a thing, having right recruitments, and that kind of a thing is prevention cost. Appraisal is something which you do during the process, and it's all about, continuous inward inspection, continuous monitoring of the product output, the quality, that kind of a thing. Internal failure is you have done the product, but it has still not gone to the market. So you find the product is not so good, so you have to do reworking, you have to scrap the product, or the machinery, excess machinery time, you have to do it. All that is what we call internal failure. Next one is what we call external failure. It's once you send the product to the market, you are given a warranty. You have to repair it under warranty, which is very expensive. Recall cost. I remember I was working in a company, we were selling some water pumps, and our managing director went a little bit crazy, and he said 24-hour service, after sales service. and just an island wide. And just think about it. Some person in Kuliapitia finds that the water pump is not working at 11 o'clock in the night, and he wants a person sent to Kuliapitia at 11 o'clock to attend to his repair, because that is what we have promised. It was crazy. So that is a totally unnecessary commitment, unnecessary kind of a cost. It was a sales gimmick, but which really backfired on the company. So we have to be very, very careful the promises what we give. Now, if you go to a company like Singer, you can see if you buy a computer or whatever, they will give you a 1 year guarantee, 1 year warranty, but they say you can pay something additional and you can get a 3-year warranty. So they know, they are well aware that the repair cost, warranty cost can be very heavy. But the most important cost in the external failure cost is not anything like what we spend, but it is all about our reputation. The moment it is an external failure, you will see today in Facebook, you will have many things saying, I went and bought such and such product from the Keels, I went and bought such and such product from the Food City, whatever, and it was defective, it was this thing, I went and had a meal at the restaurant and it was so, and that can make a very, very huge impact on your company reputation. So finally, what we have to realize is any increase in expenditure prevention and appraisal is very likely to result in a significant reduction of internal and external failure cost. But we have to be balancing. We should not be overspending on, trying to maintain super quality, but the product is so costly, finally you cannot sell it. So you have to, this is a balancing act what you have to do. This will be ideal. This kind of a question, a scenario can come up in your management case study, which can look into these kind of. Quality management, as I said, it's a continuous improvement. It's not a kind of a standard quality. We don't say we have achieved the standard, that's good enough. No, we go for continuous improvements. And total quality management, everyone takes responsibility for failure in quality. It's not some one person or a one department. Total quality management does not accept waste as been acceptable, because we are looking all the time continuous improvement. So no normal losses percentage allowed, no abnormal percentage allowed. It's a kind of a situation we are looking for, a kind of an ideal scenario. So total quality is concerned with quality related costs. So that is why one of the new management report what we have is all about how much we have spent on quality related costs. Because the accountants are very well focused on the production cost, but sometimes production cost is not relevant. You might have a production cost of $1, but your product is so ridiculous, so bad, no one is prepared to buy it. You might as well spend another 50 cents and get a good quality product which you can sell it to the market. So today, the modern world is very, very conscious about the quality related cost much more than the production cost. TQM often goes in hand with just in time. So just in time means we have to have right quality. We cannot afford to have any internal failure cost, because the product need to get into the ship by the time it comes out of the machine. So there is no time for you to redo the product or recycle the product. My son-in-law is working in Bangladesh in garments factory, garments manufacturing. Even when he's in Sri Lanka, I can see him screaming at his workers, because so sometimes when I ask, why are you screaming? He says, it's 12 o'clock night now, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the ship, I have to send the container out. So there is no time for them to recheck the quality or anything. So the prevention cost and appraisal cost will have to be very high. They have to get the right quality, because at 12 o'clock the product is coming from the machine, and at 2 o'clock it should be ready for it to get into the container. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the ship is ready to take the goods to New York. So that's the kind of a pressure the people have, and they have to work on that one. So in this kind of a just-in-time of environment, in type of total quality management environment, the material variances like price material variance, efficiency variance are not so material, not so relevant as much as what you give focus on the quality. If you want to successfully implement TQM, you must have the total commitment throughout the organization. You must try and understand the customer needs completely fully, because you have absolutely no room to manufacture something and to see, oh my gosh, this is not what the customer wants. Now, particularly these companies like Brandix, companies like Mars, they produce high quality ladies items to the market in USA. Now that kind of a thing, you must get a very, very clear understanding from the customer what he is exactly asking. You have no room to make a second adjustment or anything like that. And you have to plan your things in such a way that you get it right for the very first time. And agree at each level with each employee the quality expected and the customer also the quality expected. Total implementation of a company-wide policy is very important so that everyone will know that it is so. Continually, you have to measure the performance on a continuous basis, and any quality mismanagement will end up with firefighting, which is not a very good thing in a strategic or based organization. So demand continuous improvements from the people all the time, spend money on training the people, and recognize achievements, very important, and make quality a way of life. This is why you can see companies like Mars, Brandix, Unicella doing so successfully because they demand continuous improvements, and not only that, they recognize the achievements of the people. When they achieve something, they recognize, they appreciate it. This is how the hotels like John Keel's they are running. This is the way, this is their way of life. They are never satisfied with what they get, but they always recognize and they continue. So these are the good tools for the implementation of TQM. I have always seen some questions in the paper through this slide coming up, so I want you to take special note of these. So with this kind of a scenario, Dhanusha, the one thing what is happening is the way that we provide management information, the role of the management accountant has changed a lot. Traditionally, the management accountant's job was to do a variance analysis, actual versus budget, actual versus budget. But today, the management accountant's information style has changed completely. So we have to think something positive, something new. Traditionally, it was focused on output and not quality. You were looking at the budgeted output 100,000, actual output 110,000, so favorable variance 10,000, very good, good. But today, it's not the 100 or 110, how much of good quality products came in, or how much went on rejects, how many customer complaints. So now the new management accounting measures will focus on quality and will include reports as cost of downtime. How many times I had to redo the product? Cost of job of rework. Just because I was negligent, I had to go and redo the product, and how much did it cost me? Loss of revenue from customer returns. The customer was not happy and he returned the goods, so that also will be a very big thing. I'm sure in In time to come, now at the moment it is revenue net of return. But I'm sure the way that the things are happening, the accounting standard body will say you have to show revenue and sales returns in 2 lines, because the people will want to know out of your total revenue how much got returned. That's a good way to know the customer satisfaction level. And obviously what we know is when you provide good training, you will have good quality people, and therefore you must spend a fair amount of money out of your revenue on training costs. So about two sessions back, the management case study was all about a mobile telephone company. I remember the question, the pre-scene said they are spending about 5% of their revenue on staff training. So I thought it was fairly good, and they were spending 5%, which is a good part of the revenue. But one of my students said 5% is not good enough. She has gone into the research and she has found the company like Nokia is spending 15% of revenue on the training. So you can see today, I'm sure in your company, the people may be trained on the insurance and all that. Lot of money is being spent on staff training, because through the staff training, we can get good quality. Now, where do you think staff training will fall into in the category of performance, the cost related? Is it prevention? Is it appraisal? Is it internal failure? Or is it external failure? If you spend money on staff training, Dhanusha.
Appraisal cost.
Could be appraisal, even could be prevention, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. I mean, it can be appraisal because you are continuously training the staff, but it may be that because your staff is well trained, there are chances of making a mistake in the process is very little. That's what I said, that prevention and appraisal, it can be somewhat, it's a very thin line. You're right. I mean, nothing wrong in it, but I believe it is the good training can be something like prevention cost. But continuous training could be something like appraisal cost. So, when it comes for the total quality management, we know non-financial things are very important. So the many things that what we look at in the non-financial, so this is where our management accounting reports, our structure has got changed a lot. We have to look at things like number of defects as a percentage of completed unit, right? Is it 10% or 15%? Number of units that we have to rework it again. Number of defective units delivered to customers and which they have returned it back. Number of customer complaints. Number of defectives supplied by suppliers. Not only the customers, we have to do total quality management with our own suppliers. We have to find out whether the suppliers are right for us, or whether we have to change the suppliers. If if one supplier's quality is 15% bad, that every time when he supplies 100, I have to return back 15, something I must do about it. Time taken to respond to customer requests. This is very important, right? Because the customer wants a response very quickly today. So quality reports should have all this information. It can come up weekly, it can come up monthly, and at lower levels, you may need it even daily. And you can see the key focus is on cost incurred and benefits achieved through cost of quality reduction. So you might want to see last month we have spent 200,000 on quality related costs, but how has it improved our customer complaints? After spending 200,000 more, is our customer complaints still increasing? In that case, our quality related whatever we have done is not worthwhile. So we have to do an assessment. This is what our management accounting is expected to do. So this kind of a report preparation can come up very well in our management case study, but also in the objective test paper. We spoke little about just in time. As the picture shows, it is just producing the goods only when the customer wants. So basically it works on two principles. The first principle is we produce goods only when the customer needs, and the products or services are delivered at the time customer wants them. So we don't produce and keep goods. We don't produce services and keep it. We just produce it only when the customer wants. And because of that one, we also will buy from our supplier only when we want. For the supplier, we are the customer and we buy from the supplier only when we want. And we buy goods only when, we manufacture goods only when the customer wants it. So therefore you can see just in time works basically on the customer agenda, and therefore one thing we need to be very, very mindful focus is the quality aspect, and therefore total quality management becomes very, very relevant. Or almost you can't do JIT without TQM. TQM need to be there if you want to do JIT, or if you are going to do TQM, we need to have JIT side by side. JIT always sees inventory as a waste, as a burden, as an unnecessary financial tie-up. So they don't want inventory to be there. And the ideal scenario is to have zero inventories. But so far, I don't think there's any organization where we have zero inventories. But the idea is to minimize the inventory to the minimum level so that we rely on our suppliers to supply whenever we want it, and our customers rely on us to supply to them whenever they want it. So for this purpose, you need to have very good IT systems to coordinate between the supplier and the customer and our manufacturing unit to produce it just in time when we want. With that, we come to the end of another series, what we call the modern manufacturing, where we looked at quality control costs, where we looked at total quality management, where we looked at just in time. All those things were looked at in that area. Any questions so far, Danusha?
Sorry, sir?
Any questions you have?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Now what we're going to do is, you remember we started on ABC. We looked at activity-based costing. Today I want to move from that one to activity-based management and activity-based costing and decision making. So this is our next. So we know that all of us, we have to make decisions. So today the activity-based costing, you remember we discussed activity-based costing. It's a way to allocate the overheads based on activities rather than functions. It is the activities that is driving the cost. So we want to make a proper right allocation, and therefore what we have seen is the ABC becoming a very, very important kind of a scenario for decision making, and particularly for long-term decisions. So basically, the idea is the activity-based costing systems, they are basically designed to provide management with cost information, more accurate cost information relating to its products or services. Why do we need cost information? Because we have to do right pricing. Now pricing, as I said, it can be cost-based pricing. So for that also we need the right costing, because we need to do the cost plus a markup the pricing. Or as I said, we discussed some time back, the pricing can be based on target cost. Target costing. The market is so competitive, the market has decided the price for your product already. So you can't sell the product the way that you want it. The market has decided, but then you want a particular margin, and then you work backwards on the margin, and then you try to arrive at your cost. And for that also you need very, very accurate costing or almost accurate costing. So basically ABC is looked as a window to look at better costing, better cost information for good decision making. So basically it produces historic information and it will help the management to analyze its profit, to analyze its profitability. So there are two main profitability scenarios what we look at rather newly today. One is to see customer profitability. We want to see some of these customers. I discussed this one with earlier also about the banks. The banks see the small customers like, having 1,000 rupees savings account, 2,000 rupees savings account customers as unprofitable customers because they have to spend lot on the activity like printing bank statements, send in the bank statements even if they have only 1,000 rupee account in the bank. And they see another big account which has 10 million rupees in the account. Also, they spend the same kind of time and therefore they are more profitable. So the activity-based costing will relate the number of pages, whatever, the number of telephone calls they have to answer for a particular customer, the number of deliveries. Now, for example, deliveries. One customer might ask for one delivery, right? 10,000 units, one delivery. So the activity is one delivery, one cost. Another person might take the same 10,000 over a month, but you have to deliver 1,000 quantity 10 times. Now, obviously, the second customer is more costly. Same sales value, 10,000 units, 10,000 units, but because we are sending 10 lorries, the 10 trucks, the cost is much more. So, this kind of thing we can find out what we call customer product profitability. The other one, of course, is simply the product profitability. Direct product profitability. We want to see whether to do this or the other. Now, sometimes you might find when you are doing too many products, some of the products are very costly, not worth working with that one. So you might want to shift your basis into something. Now, for an example, in a hospital can do many types of surgeries, but they might decide that it's too costly for them to focus to do a particular type of a surgery. And they might decide, now we have in Colombo, we have some of the hospitals specialized only in the childbirth. Their surgeries are all childbirth. Then there are some hospitals who are doing only eye surgery. But there are some hospitals who are doing all types of surgery. Now, one way you can purely go by the profitability and think it's worthwhile only to do this kind of surgery. But on the other hand, we have to look at the overall situation. If you try to focus or confine yourself, you might not have the whole day's work. So you have to be careful on that kind of a thing also. So all that decision making tool is today it has become through ABC. Remember, I told you ABC is very costly, but now you can see ABC can be very useful to provide information. So product pricing strategy. Should we have a range of products or should we discontinue products? And should we go for a new product development or should we continue with the old products? All that. I was working in a company where we were importing and selling about 200 products. From every little thing they were importing and selling. But what I realized was when I did the 80-20 analysis, I found 20% of our products, that is 40 products, were bringing more than 90% of our sales. So the time we spent, the expenditure we consume on the balance 80% of the products just brought only 10% of our revenue. So what's the big idea? So I had to convince my management through the management information reports not to go for many products, because whether you buy whether you take one product or 10 products, you have to spend lot of time on ordering, telephone calls, meeting the customers, meeting the suppliers, all that. You might as well focus on that 20% of the product and get that 90% sales, and probably when you are focused on that one, that 20% of the product even can bring 100% sale for you. So rather than trying to do every product that is there in the market, so that kind of information will come to activity-based costing scenario. So this is, as I said, it works very much on strategic decision making, because the underlying value is greater accuracy to the product costing, and therefore you have a very reliable cost information to be used for decision making. And also we have to remember some of the variable costs, what we think as variable costs, are not always variable in the short term. Right? Or sometimes not all the fixed costs we think fixed costs are very fixed in the long term. So the cost behavior can be understood through a very good activity-based costing. You might find when you want to buy more and more and more products or raw materials, your variable cost per unit also can come down, because the economies of scale, learning curve, etc., etc. The other side is also true. When you try to produce more and more and more, some of the costs what you thought as very fixed cost can become variable cost. In fact, the theory says there is nothing called a fixed cost. In the long term, everything is a variable cost. Because more you produce, more you have to spend on what we call fixed cost. You have to have more supervisors, you have to have more warehouses, etc. So every cost can become a fixed variable cost in the long term. So this ABC will tell us a kind of a cost behavior relationship, and that you remember in your P1 you would have learned something called variable cost, fixed cost, and also something called semi-variable cost, and also something called step fixed cost. So all those things can become very relevant in our scenario. What is activity-based management? Now, we must not mix up activity-based costing with activity-based management. Both are relevant, both goes hand to hand. Activity-based management, or what we call ABM, is something where we use activity-based cost information, and using the activity-based costing information, when we handle things like cost reductions or cost modeling or customer profitability analysis, this is what we call activity-based management. The base is activity-based costing, but we use activity-based costing very, very strongly to make decisions. We manage our decisions based on activity-based costing, and that's what we call ABM, very specifically for customer profitability analysis, and also to see where we can reduce certain costs. In other words, we will be looking in a minute things like value-adding activity, non-value-adding activity, and all that is coming from this activity-based management. So basically, it uses the ABC analysis information to take good decisions based on activity. Okay, why you will see in some of the modern companies, we don't have the office peer. We don't have a tea maker, right? There is a tea machine there. You can go and put your cup of tea or coffee or whatever and drink it. Because earlier, I remember I was working in the National Water Board. One of the biggest problems I had was all the time people coming and complaining, saying that they don't get the tea on time, or the tea is too much of sugar, or the tea is, watery and all that kind of a thing. So my time, which I was at the head of the finance, which I could spend on doing something on financial, sometimes I had to spend lot of time talking to the unions about a cup of tea. Right? Now, much easy. You put up a tea machine and ask the fellows, you put any amount of tea, any amount of sugar, the way you want it. We don't have people to make tea. Right? So, uh, all these things came purely because of the activity-based management. I went to Singapore some time back and I saw everyone is making their cup of tea, everyone is cleaning their table or whatever. No peons, no secretaries, no one, they do their work by themselves. And all that is basically activity-based management. Because earlier we had functions. We had a tea making department, inward-outward mail department, all functions. But today we look at not the functions, we look at the activities. What is the activity? And that's what the banks have gone across. The banks have, without asking people to come to the bank, they get many things done through the telephone call. And also, even if you go to the bank, you have a check deposit box, you have a the ATM machine to withdraw the money, everything. So you don't need to go and meet the people, talk about it, the people. Get your things done. This is what they call ABM. It can be very effectively used and it will be used. So basically what they do is they try to identify, looking at each and every activity that your company performs, you can identify what are the value-adding activities, what are the non-value-adding activities. So even if you look at your own organization, you might find, if you really go into the very deep, you might find that some of the activities are not adding value, but don't go and tell some of the people because they might chase you out. So because they don't like to say that, you know, their setup is not adding value. Everyone believes they are adding value. But if you really go very deep, you might find there are hundreds of activities in your own organization what are non-value adding activities. Like for example, the old stenographers. Now in a scenario like Waterboard, they have hundreds of stenographers. I don't know what work they have. They don't have any work to do now because most of the things are done by the people. But they have been there for 15 years, 20 years, so they get the annual increments. Their salaries goes up every year and you have to pay them salaries, and finally the water consumer has to pay all their salaries, but they are non-value adding activities. So, like that, we have to look at all those things. So, non-value activities are unnecessary and represents waste. This is where the private sector, whether it's in Sri Lanka or private sector in any part of the world, they have an advantage. They can find these non-value adding activities and they can eliminate. But the government sector, they can't do that. If once they try to do that one, what we can see it's always happening in Colombo, Udghosana, protest all the time, because the no government can come and stop anything. They are not prepared. I remember when I was working at the water board, we used to send buses to bring the people to office even now. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, the driver will come and take the drivers, and they take the vehicle, go, bring the people by 8:15. So from 5 to 8:15 or 5 to 8:30 overtime. Then from 8:30 till 4 o'clock, no work for them. They just stay. Non-value adding activity. And at 4 o'clock, again they take the vehicle and they go and drop the people. 7:30, 4 to 7:30, again overtime. So during the 8:30 to 4, they get a big salary, but they don't do anything. Non-value adding activity. So I suggested, almost the unions wanted to assault me. I suggested, why don't we stop these buses and give all the people who are coming some additional traveling allowance or something, let them find their way and come back, rather than paying this unnecessary overtime and unnecessary salary. So this is what the private sector will do all the time. Look at the value. So all that can come from activity-based management. I looked at the activity of providing transport. And when you look at, you can see what a waste of money that is being spent. So aim should be to eliminate it. Not very easy in some of these highly unionized sectors to do this kind of a thing. Now, for example, in most of the foreign countries, this water meter reading, the electricity meter reading, you don't send the water meter readers. You ask the consumer to, at the end of the month, to take the reading and inform the relevant authority. They will prepare the bill and send the bill, and you pay the bill, that kind of a thing. But in our country, we can see the water meter reader comes, electricity meter reader comes, and they have to go house by house. They can, abuse that kind of a thing. And we pay lot of those people big salaries for taking just a meter reading, which can be easily done by our consumer. Of course, there can be a little bit of misuse, but we can send once in a way, we can send a supervisor to check whether the accurate meter readings are given. If the people are disciplined, like in the Western countries, you can save, and your water bill can come down very heavily. That unfortunately in a country like Sri Lanka, we can't do that kind of thing. We can see lot of non-value adding activity happening in the public sector. Customer complaint, right? Customer complaint unit. Why should we have a customer complaint unit? If we can have good customer service, people have nothing to complain, then why we have a customer complaint unit? So we can see, if you look at all these places, you go to a hospital, there are some beautifully dressed people staying there, good morning, good evening. Why we should have all that? Just put a map and put up the direction so the people can just find a way and go. This is all what we do sometimes, is to provide jobs for the people. For the people who have voted for the politicians, we have to give jobs. So we create jobs and we create non-value added activities. So ABM will focus on activities within a process and that need continuous improvement of all activities. So that is what they do with decision making planning related to those activities and the need for continuous improvement of all value adding activities. Non-value adding activities, just get rid of. So to implement ABM, activity-based management, we have to find out what are the critical activities we need to work it through. Now, if you look at water, the critical activity is to give purified, treated water, purified water. That's the critical activity. Reading the meter is not a critical activity. And providing good after service, whenever there's a water leak, it must be properly attended. That's a critical activity. So we have to decide in each organization what are those critical activities, and they must be very, very clearly defined, accepted. And everyone should cooperate in defining what is the cost goal or what is the activity, what's the cost driver, and what are going to be my KPI. And then the staff is empowered, they are properly trained to act. You don't need to come every minute to the board of directors and ask instructions. I remember, since you are in the insurance, I remember I had a problem with Janashakti insurance over my car, and some claim, and those fellows are not paying the claim. I had to finally go to Mr. Prakash Chafter and waste his time, the CEO's time, just to get a small claim done, right? If the people were properly, when I spoke to him, he said, yes, man, these people don't take decision. If the people are properly empowered to act, if they know, this is a very genuine situation, we must do it, then we can cut down on unnecessary time of the senior management. All must be treated fairly, well treated, success recognized. So with the KPIs, we can identify the performance. Performance must be well recognized. So for ABM information or ABM work to system to work out, what are the outputs we require? So basically, cost activities and business processes. What are the activities? What are the processes? What are the non-value activities and what is their cost? Sometimes if the non-value added activity, the cost is very little, just ignore that one. Better not go and, rouse those people. It's a small cost, let it be there. So sometimes when I speak of some of these things, some of the ministers says, Kumar, let it be there because, it's a small activity. If we try to attack that one, there may be bigger problem, which is true. Activity-based performance management. For the activities, put up the KPI. Have good product service cost. Very important. That comes from your activity-based costing. And finally, good cost drivers. So these are the outputs what we must have to manage activity-based management system in any organization. So since the activities form the core of the business, the basic output must be to provide relevant cost information to the activity, not to the finance function, not to the HR function, not to the sales function. Look at the activity, what is happening. Is it the surgeries? Is it the kitchen activity? Whatever, look at the activity and information should be related to the activity and not to the function. So traditional system reports what money is spent for by and by whom. So that our normal accounting system is this. We say electricity, we say water, we say stationery, but that's not good enough in the activity base. We must know stationery, for which activity did the stationery go? Electricity, for which activity did electricity go? So we have to identify through the activity, not through the not to just to have the general ledger system, which is not enough. So here the costs are assigned to each activity. Electricity, 60% of electricity goes to operate this machine. 10% goes to only to operate this machine. That's the kind of a thing. So we know our focus should be on that 60% machine. Today, in our household, we can see, if you just take a little example, the electricity consumption, right? We have a 1 month electricity bill. We have to find out where is this electricity excess consumption is happening. Is it the fridge? Is it the TV? Or is it something else? The other day, our famous Maria Sel was telling me, she got a very big bill for electricity, and later on she has found it was a fridge, that was the old fridge that was taking a lot of electricity. They switched off the fridge and they switched off some of the old fans, and the electricity bill has come down by about 80%. Now that's the way we look at these activities. We want to see what are the activities that is consuming our expenditure. Rather than saying electricity so much, rather than saying water so much, rather than saying stationery so much in our normal ledger account, try and see where is this stationery going? Where is this traveling going? In your insurance, we can find out the traveling in one ledger. But traveling, is it going to canvas orders or is traveling going to settle the claims? You can do the activity and see where it is. So non-validated activities, these are simply the wasteful activities. So that will provide a very crucial focal point for management to look at. This is how some of these companies have decided not to give company cars for the senior people. Just give them an allowance, let them hire a car or lease out a car, whatever, because they found maintaining a car, having an in-house garage or something is a very costly thing. It's a non-value adding activity because we are not in the business of servicing cars. We are in the business of selling insurance. but we have 100 cars, and to maintain that 100 cars, we have to have a workshop, all that, which is a non-value added activity. So you might as well give your employees a vehicle allowance and ask the people to buy your vehicle and run it so that we can remove that non-value added. Basically, we have to have a lot of performance measures, right? Knowing the total cost is not good enough. We must know the quality, we must know the cycle time, productivity, customer service. So on these lines, we have to put up our KPI, right? So we have to put up a kind of a scorecard to see the customer service. Okay, what is the thing? What is the length to respond to a customer complaint? Like that, we have to put up certain key performance indicators based on the quality, cycle time, etc. One thing we need to know very clearly, there is absolutely no doubt about it, accurate product services cost. And also we are selling the products through many channels today. We can sell online, we can sell through an agent, we can sell through our own sales representatives, we can sell through a distributor. So there are many ways. So we have to find out for each of these distribution channels, what is the cost. If we try to sell our products through the website, what's the cost of development of a website, maintenance of a website. If we try to sell through distributors, what is the amount that we have to pay to a distributor, etc., etc. You know the cost drivers. It's basically what we have learned in the activity-based costing. We have to find out the cost driver information continuously. And activity-based management, I think, can be used in any area, right? Basically for strategic decisions, whether we should continue with a particular activity or not. It may be a non-value adding activity or not a profitable activity. It will tell us how the cost structures are made up, whether it is all right, whether it's comparable with our competitors. How changes in activates and components affect the suppliers and the value chain. So if we change the way of doing things, how it will affect our structure. So one thing very clearly what ABC does is, ABC really recognizes, the ABM really recognizes the contribution the people make. That is what it is. So that is why we have a way of measuring people's performance. And if you are going to measure, we must empower them so that their time is not wasted coming to the board level to get every decision. They have the freedom, they have the choice to make decisions. Good communication, good teamwork is a necessity. And thereby you share information, share knowledge, therefore you get quality decision making, quality control, continuous improvement. Surely it is not going to reduce cost, but will understand the manager to understand cost better and also to eliminate non-value adding activity cost. So it definitely identifies the value adding activities, non-value activities, and you can see certain customers are not worth servicing, that kind of a thing. So non-value adding activities, surely the idea is to eliminate, but not immediately altogether, gradually over a period of time. So basically this is a way to get that competitive advantage, because by having this kind of information, we can much more better manage the company, much more better than our competitors. And it can minimize the cost, but that's not the idea. It is basically to manage the cost. what are the problems? Surely it is a very, very costly. Our general ledger information does not support this kind of management information system. So you have to have a good IT structure, good IT investment to provide all the information we require. Finally, you can get a better product cost rather than the way that we were doing based on machine hours, labor hours. We have a better product cost, and therefore we will have a better idea of our product profitability, and that will decide whether we should continue the product or whether we should discontinue the product. I mean, that will be one of the factors we will take it. Not always just because the product is not profitable, we will remove it, because some of the product goes as complementary product. We need to have this product to sell the other product. So later on we will learn in pricing decision something what we call price bundling, that kind of pricing. But for the moment, we need to look at this kind of a product profitability. So direct product profitability, have a better cost analysis, better pricing decision, better management of store and warehouse space, because if I know this product is not profitable, I should not be holding into many stores, many warehouses. I must try and dispose it as well. You can rationalize the product range. This is what I did. Rather than selling 200 products, sell 40 products and make my money. Right? Better merchandising decisions. Also, we can look at how it works out, because there are many variables in the direct product profitability. Surely the variable cost, and also some of the overheads also can be variable when we try to apply it on the direct product profitability. So you can decide on buying, selling price, etc. The rate of sale, as you should sell, what is the inventory that you must hold it, what's the product size, how much it is going to cost me to order. All those information will come up, and that way you will have a very, very good idea. So we have now finished up that area also, that is on the activity-based management. There have been a lot of questions on these areas, so that's why I did some of these areas with you. So yeah. Now how is your calendar? Saturday, are you working? Saturday morning, how are you, Danisha?
I'm not working, sir, but this weekend I'm going to Candy, so I won't be able to phone.
Right, okay. Okay. Then shall we, because I'm not here Monday and, Wednesday and Thursday. Shall we make it Monday next?
Yeah, okay.
Shall we make it Monday next, same time like?
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Yeah. So, yeah, we'll make it Monday same time, okay?
Okay.
Right, okay. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Sir, last class, the modern environment
Yeah.
link you did.
I haven't said. I'll send it to you. Okay, sure. I'll do that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, okay.